we constantly see on our support every week at least two or five cases where we found themes that they are still doing really bad developments and not using these common objects that allows to work properly with markets. And
now, are these theme store themes, or are these like third-party themes, or just like really outdated ones?
I will tell you that almost half past a year ago, there were still apps, many apps that still they were not using these objects. The JavaScript object or the roots object of Liquid. But nowadays, I think mostly they are from the theme, maybe an old theme or some developer that writes something fast and
Have you ever had issues with webhooks? Almost certainly you've had moments during Black Friday, Cyber Monday flash sales, or a merchant bulk operation that caused issues with your app. Hookdeck sits in front of your app as middleware to solve reliability, scalability, and observability issues with your webhooks without rewriting your stack. It's an alternative to AWS EventBridge that preserves your sanity. Webhooks are automatically queued to protect your endpoints, and failed deliveries are automatically retried on your own schedule. Every webhook is stored in a persistent, searchable event log you can filter and replay by order ID or timestamp, and noisy duplicates are removed before they hit your processors. I've recently started using Hookdeck for my own app. For a minimal amount of work, I gain confidence in my app can handle whatever amount of webhooks Shopify throws its way. Hookdeck will send them to me at a rate my infrastructure can handle, and if something goes wrong, I can easily inspect the undelivered payloads and trust they will be resent. App developers like Gorgeous, UserLoop, EasyPost, SuperCycle, Rocked, and Penny Lane use Hookdeck to reduce on-call noise, avoid outages, recover from issues quickly, and ship with confidence. You can use it for free for up to 10,000 events a month, and you can be running in minutes since it doesn't require any code changes. Check out the description for more. Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting edition of the Liquid Weekly Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Meisterheim. With me, as always, Taylor changes his shirt at the last minute page. Taylor, how are you?
I'm great, Karl. How are you doing as someone who stuck to their original wardrobe for the morn?
Well, I'm doing good. I officially broke out. I have a drawer of warm clothes, and this was in the warm clothes drawer. So it's that time of year here. It's getting cool in Ohio.
It has. The temperature has definitely shifted. I think you were teasing me because last time it was colder for me, and it wasn't quite cold for you. But now you finally caught up just in the almost 2 hours south of me.
I don't tease people, Taylor. But I was thinking that this is sort of sad because the end of October, when we're recording this, is sort of the end of an era. I like to go to farmers markets. They have cookies. They have vegetables that you can look at. You don't have to buy them, though. And lots of fun and frolic. But there's another type of market that I know almost nothing about, which is the Shopify markets. And so we have searched high and low and found this gentleman who lives in Spain, goes by the name Roberto. He is an expert on all things Shopify markets. So, Roberto, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you, Karl. Lovely to be here, and thanks a lot for inviting me.
Of course. Now, give us a little bit of background about yourself. Is it Orbe or Orbe? How do you pronounce it?
Well, if we go to the Latin pronunciation, that is the origin of the word, it will be Orbe.
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 Yeah.
Like it.
Well, you can say it however you want. It will be perfect.
My daughter was practicing her hard R's and her soft R's last night, and I didn't know there were different types of R's when you speak Spanish, but I guess it's good. So would that be a soft R or a hard R in Orbe?
Soft. It will be soft one. Yeah. A hard R, I think we will be in Roberto. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is how we will say. Yeah.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about Orbe and a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into Shopify development? What is it you focus on?
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I'm Roberto Senabre, and I like to define myself. I'm a Shopify developer and co-founder of Orbe, as you say. Orbe is a built for Shopify app that helps international shoppers land in the right localized experience, whether that's through Shopify Markets or multiple expansion stores. I I started. I wanted to create my own business since I was very, very young. So also, I have a good passion for computers that led me to start coding from the age, I think, of 12. So from that time, I used to build a small websites. Just from that, I started freelancing, mostly helping in that time WordPress users. And then I also started my own business on WooCommerce. While I was living in the UK, I was a merchant at that time. It was a fashion accessory brand where we manufacture 100 plant-based leather products. We created like backpacks, mouse pads, and other similar items that were made with plant-based leather with very particular materials that they were possible to be made of mushrooms. So 100 plant-based.
Taylor, I don't mean to make you feel bad, but that's way more impressive than coffee mugs.
I was going to say that's yes, that is way more impressive than coffee mugs. My first foray into running a little online shop there, so that's amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, very complex.
Coffee mugs are easy, so
yeah, that's right. So from that, we started selling across Europe in the beginning, and at that time my own WooCommerce website was built by myself because I was a front-end developer, and I quickly realized how painful it was to manage multiple localized experiences in this scenario in WooCommerce or a platform like PrestaShop that is very common here in Europe as well, or Magento, anyway, to go right to the topic, I finally sold myself on that business, and at that time, it was when I discovered Shopify, and I love it, how it helped entrepreneurs focus on just selling instead of technology, because even on that business, being my merchant myself, I invested some time on developing the things and etc. And I realized that it didn't make sense in terms of business.
So how long ago was it that you found Shopify?
I think just the last version of that store was made on Shopify, and I don't remember why. I heard about Shopify many times, but I think it was 2016 or something like that when I heard first time, and we were testing on that, and it was like, I really fucking love it. To the point, this is super easy. How can I set up everything? And I really love the product. And as a software engineer, it was like, this is a really cool product. From that is where I discovered Liquid, and I started helping myself Shopify Plus merchants. As you know, before that, for bootstrapping that other business, the e-commerce business, I was doing freelancing with some WooCommerce stores and this kind of that. So I started doing that here in Spain with Shopify Plus merchants or even non-Plus merchants, and also in Europe. And I remember the exact date because it was for me something super cool. August 2021, when Shopify releases and announced Shopify Markets. And for me was like a game changer. Because, especially here in Europe, I struggle so much with selling to different countries in different languages and try to localize all the experiences because it's not the same for each country. Nowadays, it's true that English is like even more common, but at that time, it's true that you couldn't sell in Italy in English. It would be better to sell it just in Italian, no? For example. When I saw this amazing feature from Shopify, it was like, no-brainer. I fall in love on Shopify, and at the same time, I became a Shopify Markets fanboy. From that, I had a podcast with my current co-founder, and he was the CTO of another company. We were discussing about this, and at that time, I had many merchants where I helped them to set up markets in their stores, and they were struggling to move their international customers to the right localized experience, because they were landing on the wrong checkout, wrong currency, wrong content. And that's when Orbe came up, our idea, to create this a good build for Shopify geolocation app that could help all of them. And so yeah, I team up with my co-founder, Alberto, and even both of us, we are developers. He's more in the technical lead, and I'm more focused on the business side, marketing the app. And yeah, and that's how we started the app.
That's amazing. It sounds like you guys have the perfect pairing too, because I know a lot of folks listening are probably more on the technical side, and they may want to make an app or have made an app. But if you don't have also the business acumen and the marketing acumen like you have, Roberto, it's hard to make that become a success, because so much it really does depend on that piece. So it sounds like you guys are perfectly paired to take Orbe. Am I pronouncing right?
Yeah. No, I mean, you can seriously Orf. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had also the partners before in other businesses, and finding a good partner is worse than finding a wife.
Trust.
You know.
I know.
It's more difficult. I mean, you know. So yeah. I mean, I'm super grateful to have my co-partner.
That's cool.
Yeah, finding a partner in business and is to some degree, right? Like it's that same level of difficult of finding a life partner. Yeah, for sure. It's people have either horror stories or great success stories often that comes out of it. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of in between. So that's fantastic that you found somebody that's really been helpful and you've been able to take it a long way. Now, one of the reasons that we had originally reached out, because we've had conversations, and you know, you've always been a very great resource for me personally, at least for markets, that you know, whenever we need like information, stuff like this or what have you. But recently y'all had done a post, and I was like, okay, like we need to get it on and talk about markets, because especially I think a lot of us that are US based Shopify devs, or you know, even just like most of the brands that we're working with, they're US based, and eventually they want to actually start considering other markets. And it's something that I have been very dreadfully unfamiliar with at all. And interestingly enough, when we had Toby on the podcast, we asked him about the next big thing, and markets was what he talked about, and something that he was really excited about. And so you've latched on to that, and you've gotten very good at figuring all of this out. And you had, like I said, this just great post. It was on Twitter, and we'll make sure it's in the show notes and everything. But I'd love to talk about maybe that initial start when we had Toby on last. That was kind of this idea, like the question, the way we framed it was like metafields are huge, and they had just come into the online store, and they were becoming normalized and what have you. And we were like, what's the next big thing with Shopify? And he said markets. And at the time, and I still didn't quite understand that, and I'm only just now starting to get into it, but you're already there. And so maybe you want to talk about that with like this initial piece with Shopify Markets, like how they were introduced, because you remember it so clearly and so passionately about like how this first started and now kind of how it's advanced, and then hopefully we can hit some of those points that you made in that post, because I think even just highlighting some of those would be really great. So first, you know, Shopify Markets, how that started, and maybe, you know, kind of start digging into it a little bit more from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, super cool. I mean, I've been lucky because I think I saw that because I struggled before with going global as a merchant. And even if you think of the software engineer in other platforms, just to try to create different subfolders, subdomains, and localize all those experiences for each country is super easy in Shopify, and in other platforms is super hard. Just to go back, I think now from where I have heard from the Shopify Markets team and how it's going on, markets initially started as the features to go global on Shopify, you know, just to create different localized storefront experiences. And now markets englobe just not only that, but also POS and B2B. So what I initially fully loved was what they call now Shopify International. There has been a bit of renaming here, and with this new version of Markets. Markets is not now on the settings tab. It's just another item, like if it was products, something like that. I think this is part of the vision. So yes, we are thinking of Markets as any kind of contextualization or localization of the storefront that not necessarily needs to be just a country and language. Could be also a country and a B2B experience and a company experience. And I hope soon enough even more regions or provinces. Imagine just to create a Californian experience only for United States users that are in that state, or even here in Europe, or don't know. Imagine just to create. I saw some time ago, but some time ago on X, that they did an event like a presentation where they were showing a way to create a market experience just for men and for women. So you could create like different storefront experience based on more characteristics of the user that are not only country and language. I don't know if this is a beta or not, but I think the vision of that is to allow that on the platform. Obviously, only the first step of creating this inside only a single Shopify store for me was like a super game changer, because I think it's the biggest architectural shift, because when you are thinking of going global, you need to duplicate everything that you have developed for only one thing. Now you need to create again and again and again for each country, or at least allow the merchant to do it, And it's very complex. When you think about it, it's super complex. And I assume you really know that it's not only creating different products with prices and currencies. It's also how can we send all this data to all our marketplaces, to Klaviyo, to Google Merchant Center. It can be very, very complex. And well, previously from this, what many merchants were doing was Shopify called Shopify expansion stores. Just creating different Shopify accounts in a way. I think they create this marketing name of expansion stores so they can sell it better on Shopify Plus inside one organization. But usually many merchants creating these expansion stores, and if they want to go for the Asian market, they created just a regional store for that region, and obviously with this shift, everything was super easier to set up, and you don't need it to create another store only for one region.
So Roberto, you have to excuse my ignorance. I have not dealt much with international markets, but you're saying in the past people would have to create these expansion stores. Does that mean they'd have to potentially pay for another theme, have to pay for another copy of every app that they want across all their stores, all that sort of stuff? That's crazy.
Absolutely. And not only that, imagine that, sometimes there is also a need, and I know that the long-term vision of Shopify is that what I'm going to say is not going to happen, but talking with merchants, my feelings are not quite the same, because sometimes when there are very big enterprise organizations that they still want to have another store, because maybe they don't want that their European staff to see the analytics of the US, for example, or they have local payment methods that they only want to be attached to their legal entity from Europe. But this is the first way how merchants were going global on Shopify, and I think one of the most painful things is to sync everything. Imagine that you have only one warehouse, and you have 3 expansion stores. You need to sync everything. There are very common apps that help you to do that. But obviously it could be a mess. and create all the content pages every time you upload a new product, to do it in more than one store.
Yeah, making sure all of your even branding messaging, because you'll have users that will at least even if temporarily see one store before they get moved to another store or what have you. So you want to make sure that's all in sync. Someone's not seeing, oh, we've got a promotional deal over here but not here kind of type thing, and then that making them feel left out or what have you. Because I do think we probably downplay particularly a lot of US developers, or maybe just me, I will own that. As far as like how important that personalization in your own language and currency is. When we're talking about personalization, that's a lot of times what we're talking about, just like the trust factor that implicates. It's baseline, even outside of like the design and everything else. Just seeing that initially in something that's more familiar to you, that your brain understands, is huge. So, like you said, like, we had this like much more fragmented kind of start before markets really kind of came into play, and even since then it's evolved quite a bit, because even outside of just that first set of markets, which really was just kind of countries, I think we can go even more regionally now. And obviously we want to talk about a couple of different, maybe technical pieces, like high level or whatever at a certain point kind of type thing. So I'm assuming y'all are using a lot of we're using Liquid if we're on the storefront when possible. So there's different objects that you can access in there, like country, obviously. But are y'all using, I'm assuming, like the customer? So there's like a customer privacy API, right? Like I know I've had to use for different things or what have you. So maybe you want to talk about some of those technologies that you're leaning on are more accessible now that weren't really accessible back then. Yeah,
absolutely. And in fact, we constantly see on our support every week at least 2 or 5 cases where we found themes that they are still doing really bad developments, not using these common objects that allows to work properly with markets. And
now, are these theme store themes, or are these like third-party themes, or just like really outdated ones?
I will tell you that almost half past a year ago, there were still apps, many apps that still they were not using these objects, the JavaScript object or the roots object of Liquid. But nowadays, I think mostly they are from the theme, maybe an old theme or some developer that writes something fast and and they wrote the Ajax API just with a cart, with not using the with the slash forward. And
I was going to say I am guilty of some of these things that you're going to call out later. So I won't get too far ahead, but I will say I am guilty of some of these. So so that's more of what you're seeing, and maybe some of these customized themes or off marketplace themes. Yeah. But probably a lot of like the newer themes that at least we're getting from like the theme store or what have you, that they've gone through a rigorous process. I think it's even a requirement for themes now that they're using this because Shopify is focused on markets. Okay. Sorry,
I move to the question we were talking about.
no, that's fine. Yeah, so we're just talking about like referencing. So if we are like looking at markets, right, like some underlying technologies that Shopify didn't have to support until now. So like you had mentioned, a very important one as well for a lot of developers, they're using something like the Ajax cart and these sorts of things. And so you can just ping, right, this, if you're hard coding in that /cart.js, and like I said, I don't want to get too far ahead because it's one of your points from the post, which I thought was very, very good. And it reminded me to go back and actually fix some code. But that's one of the things, like as far as that goes. Now, what are other things offhand? Like I said, I know we've got like customer privacy, we've got country objects and those sorts of things. Is that all accessible? Like markets specifically is accessible from country?
Yeah, all of that is accessible, and I think it's a very good point, because sometimes it's super useful to understand that even markets is just some feature in the admin to group countries and help merchants set it up their store. But on the storefront, everything is about country and language. And this is something that I think that Shopify could explain sometimes better or further, because not many people you should understand, and it can cause issues because even that you have a market only for all the European Union, for example, that is very common. When you access to that storefront, you will go to the French experience or the Italian experience or whatever country the user is in. But there is no chance you go to a global storefront for the market that you have created. Usually happens that there are sometimes some merchants that also create, imagine a market called North America, where they are at Canada and the US and also Mexico. And they think that everything is going to be the same storefront, but it's not true. I mean, when you go to the storefront, everything is about country and language. So I think it's really, really important to use on JavaScript the windows.shopify root object that you can use in all the APIs before calling them, even whatever API you're using in the storefront. And because if you don't, what we have seen is that even if you're not using the card API, if there is a point, an endpoint where you are calling without specifying this contextualization, it can cause the storefront to move to another experience. So it creates issues in apps. Sometimes a merchant can see that a user is browsing a product from the UK in pounds, and suddenly they are seeing in dollars. And the reason of that because maybe they're calling an endpoint without specifying the object. So if they're using two folders, it's moving to another experience. So yeah, I mean,
and that's definitely what you want to avoid, especially if you're adding something to the cart. Somebody sees, that's like one of the worst things that could happen, right? Not just if it's on the page and it's in their currency initially or not in their currency initially. That's okay. Some people can kind of do that, but if you add something to the cart, the action, and then you're seeing something different in the cart than what you're expecting, that's a real problem. So definitely something you want to avoid. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I think this is at the most common issues when you look into the themes or apps that maybe are calling the same point without specifying this. And I mean, I understand. As I told you, I am a Shopify Markets fanboy, but talking with other app developers in the ecosystem, many of them hate markets because everything has become more complex. Sometimes
yes, it's complex, it's complicated. Yeah, absolutely. It is one of those things, and particularly if you're building for a specific market and you don't think you have to care about markets. And that might be the case maybe initially with a lot of, for instance, like when I'm working directly with clients, a lot of them were only serving the US. But then, the brand grows over time, and now all of a sudden we want to expand and we want to serve these other markets. And now all of a sudden those other things that I've been doing where I've been, building for efficiency or sake or what have you, of like, I don't have to care about markets, so I've got blinders on. Now all of a sudden I have to start caring about markets. And that is kind of tough, is being able to move into that. So, and I think we talked a little bit about a couple of these posts, these post points here, just like highlighting on them, like very high level. And so I'm curious if we should go ahead, just like kind of highlight some of these. I think this is a good thing to talk about. We had talked about the routes object already, making sure to like use the proper reference here instead of just /cart like I've been doing for a long time, and so I'm gonna have to go back and fix some things or what have you, since Roberto's calling me out here. But what else? I think we did talk a little bit about this first point here, like confusing markets with storefronts. I don't know if we want to talk about that part at least as well. We kind of highlighted this a little bit, but if you want to kind of explain that a little bit more.
I remember. I think I left you, or I will send you out later, because there is a very good a Slack message from Karl, one of the product managers of Shopify Markets. That
we're gonna have to screenshot this. Did you see the Shopify partner Slack is going away? We're gonna have to.
Luckily, I have a screenshot, so I can send you the screenshot.
You have okay. So let's say there's so much of this that now it's like, oh no, we have to go back. Anyway, I'm sorry, that was a little tangent. We don't have to get into that. But so we'll provide some kind of good reference in case you're accessing this later, where the partner Slack is no longer
because
available.
I love the partner Slack.
But yes,
we can discuss about that later.
We'll get in there.
I think it's very similar about what I was saying previously, that grouping countries in the admin doesn't merge their front-end experience. It still renders separately for each country. So the main reason of that is because you can create a global market for the merchant, so he can manage easily the catalogs, mainly product pricing. Because even the shipping options could be different. I mean, you can have a whole European market, but for North Europe, sending with different shipping methods, and for South Europe for one, or in the US even, So I think just markets is a way to group countries, so the merchant can easily manage all of them at once and do it easier. But sometimes many merchants, I think they don't understand that. And when I see setups where the merchant creates, 60 markets. So imagine that you need to change 60 markets at a time. And obviously, I think is one of the reasons why in the new markets version, they created this sub-market experience where understand and there is like a parent market and a child market. And I understand this is sometimes difficult to understand, but one of the most common issues, I suppose that, I have heard this about many brands and also so merchants doing it, that they create a country selector that instead of saying, sorry for repeating again the same example, but instead of showing in the country selector each country separately for the European Union, they just write an option that is say European Union. Or instead of showing all the countries that you are selling to, they are creating a country option that is called ROW, Rest of the World. In fact, I think this is very popular because Gymshark, the storefront that is built on hydrogen, I think they use this option. So many brands saw it and they want the same on their storefront. And this is an issue.
So, and some of this, I have a small beef with how I'm currently working through a moderately complicated markets implication with, and this is coming from, so Global E is kind of like the tech right behind like markets, and so, but people can work directly with Global E as well. And so right now, that's my current pain point, and maybe I'm gonna have to get with you on this a little bit more, is we have this information from Global E of like, we've got an ROW, we've got a rest of world, but we're also like including these other markets that we actually care about specifically. And so it's very complicated when you're trying to suss all this out. So as far as what you're seeing, I think that's the problem, is it's not really standardized, right? And so, but this is a good example.
It affects the customer experience. The main problem is that it affects the customer experience because obviously, for example, let's talk about taxes and duties. Even that you have a raw market, it's not going to be the same taxes for South Africa that for Australia or whatever country is on your raw market, it can create this customer wrong experience, because when you send me to this group of countries, what is the country experience that Shopify should render? From which country? Because there is no global market experience, it's always countries.
Yep. Yeah, and it's important for people to see that, because for instance, I don't need to see a duties and taxes or reference for U.S. based market, because I'm like, I don't even know what duties are, man. I'm not worried about paying those. What are you talking about? Like, why does it say that? So getting the terminology right, versus somebody else in a country that does care about that, they want to know, does this include this or not? And so it's hard to get it right. And you can see where people maybe cut corners, for lack of a better way to frame that. So that's definitely important. How about what was the other one that I saw in here that you had mentioned? Hard coding full URLs. This was one that made me laugh too, because this is definitely one that I think merchants do a lot, more so than anything. Outside of this, I think it's the same thing with confusing markets and storefronts. like you had mentioned, like merchants will kind of come in, they'll create all these additional like markets kind of type thing or what have you. And this has gotten, I think it's just too easy maybe for them to create these to some degree because they do this just because they don't really understand what it is. And it's easy to do enough in the admin where I've had this issue where I thought it was broken code and it was just because they created some market and excluded some products that we couldn't find the products. And so we eventually found them. But the same thing with these hard coding these full URLs. It's not something that people think about, and developers run into this all the time too. If you're running something locally and all of a sudden you click on it and then you're on the live storefront instead of because somebody hard coded the URL and the navigation. So I don't know. Do you have a good tip for how you point that out or call that out for merchants? Like, how do you get them to stop doing that?
Many loop videos, actually, in fact, and we have this kind of articles. One of the ideas of this kind of articles is to send them because one of the main things when you do when you have an app on the App Store is to be also Shopify support. So yeah, we are always teaching about Shopify. Yep. So. But I mean, I empathize with them because it's true that I think that anyone that is working on a CMS, any marketing team, always when they try to reference to another object or item, they should always select the object, not writing the URL. So if you are pointing to a blog, please select the object of the blog post because if tomorrow you change the handle, it will automatically change. It's true.
Yep. And I wish almost Shopify would have some kind of feedback if you post like the store's full URL, if it says, hey, like you should include, and there is a little indicator here of like use a / for a relative URL, but like no merchant knows what that means. So I do wish there was some kind of feedback there that says like, hey, like you should use this instead. That would be fantastic.
It's true that sometimes I understand them because imagine that you want to, for example, this is very common. They want to point to the homepage. And they don't see the homepage in the drop down, So they just place the domain, okay, but then Shopify understand that it's an external link, not internal link. So if you have different subdomains, subfolders, what we are going to do is to move the user from their localized experience to the primary one, and they will be out of that experience. So if your Irish user is browsing the products in euros for Ireland, and your store is based in the US, they will go back to the US store with showing everything in dollars. So obviously, I think that okay, yeah, sorry. Yes, to just if you want to move the user to the main homepage, just type in a /forward, and that's all what you need to do. And sometimes also happens that imagine that you want to link to an anchor link. It's true that a good point here would be that if Shopify could improve the drop-down to also select the blog post, and inside the drop-down post be able to add some hash or URL query parameters, because sometimes they want to add these more complex URLs that is not only the object, the set object, but they want to put a link that move the user to a specific part of the page, and they don't usually know that when they need to do that, they need to do it with just typing the path, and that's it. Forget about the domain. So usually what we try to do is just creating screenshots and Looms videos that I told you to explain them that this is the way to do, and they usually are very grateful about it because they don't know it, and they discover this. And it's true that one of the most common points where I saw that is on the product descriptions, because there you don't see the same drop down for all the objects available on the Shopify CMS, and usually I saw that there are many merchants that they upload their product descriptions, copy and pasting from a Google Doc. So everything happens when you do that. You even are pasting custom HTML and CSS inline styles and many rubbish. So much rubbish on that.
Yeah, it's what they're used to, right? And because oftentimes people won't want to like actually work directly within the admin there for that. So yeah, totally understand that, when people do that, but it is hard to get people to backtrack and do it properly. Potentially when they have thousands of SKUs sometimes as well. So that's definitely good. And can't downplay enough how good it is to have some decent screen recording software that you can send these videos to merchants, because a lot of times, at least in my experience, and I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but even if I show the same type of action on a different store, it's really hard for merchants to understand, well, this isn't my store, these aren't my products. And so it's very hard for them to make that connection, even if I'm doing it in a dev store with, the Snow Devil products or whatever. And I'm like, don't do this instead. If they don't see their, hats or whatever kind of type thing, or their sneakers or whatever it is that they're actually working on, they have trouble grasping it. And that makes sense. And in the same way that we're talking about a personalized or localized storefront experience for customers, we kind of have to do this as well, but for merchants. And so they need that personalized experience a little bit as well. And so I think that's really, really important. Now, you had also mentioned in here as well, editing Hreflang manually. That was something I thought that was interesting that you had called out specifically. Again, mainly because I've had to actually mess around with this a little bit before at the instruction of the SEO that we were working with at the time. Which there's several of these things that I've done. We'll talk about some of the other things like the automatic redirection, all this other stuff or whatever. That they're like, the SEO is like, this is what you're supposed to do, and Shopify is not doing it right.
This is not a very good argument.
I don't think that's right, but okay, because this is what the merchant wants. Yeah, but so I don't know if you want to talk about that, where you've seen these nightmare situations of developers like me that end up getting forced to mess with Hreflang. In fact, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
That apart from leading everything, and I have a part-time job as an SEO consultant. Because you don't know how much time I've made calls with SEO agencies to discuss about it, show them examples, and it's true that right now, as we work with very huge brands on Shopify, I can show them that they have a misconception. Obviously, even here, I think that just 5 years ago, every SEO on internet hated Shopify. So it's a topic where you have to be very confident that Shopify is the best for SEO. It's the best.
And especially when it came to markets, like I had no problem shooting people down on anything that wasn't market related for SEO from the technical side of things. Of like, no, that's not true. But when they come in and they're like, oh, we don't want to. We're appealing to these global markets and we don't want subdomains or domain specific, we don't want that. We just want all of these things. We have a currency converter on the site. It's fine. And to me, being like, that makes no sense to me if we want a more specific experience. But so you get it. You understand this pain. So and
it's true that if you have multiple Spanish stores, then you need to customize this, obviously, because you have different stores that are not connected between them, and Shopify doesn't have that information. And there is a very good apps there that can help you with that, or even with custom code. As we write on the article, if you are using one single Shopify store, forget about modifying the Hreflang tags. Shopify is also a partner of Google. I mean, they are friends. So what is the reason why Shopify is going to create Hreflang tags that creates issues on Google? It doesn't make any sense. And I have many examples of very big brands that have the first position on any web crawler or web search engine that you can find, and they're on Shopify. I mean, the very important point, one of the main things I usually do is send them a specific documentation on Google that I have, obviously because, as you know, as I have had to discuss this many times, referring to Google is the best way to win this battle. What Google says is that they want to know each country language localized experience. That's the reason why Shopify created this for each country that you are selling to and that you have changed the domain. They will show you Hreflang tag, Imagine, an English experience for Germany, it will be ND, and it will point to the URL. And many SEO agencies think that it's important to create an Hreflang tag pointing only to the language, to one specific URL. But this is like something that is not important. I mean, on e-commerce, everything is about country and language. It's not only language. It's not the same shipping to Belgium than to shipping to the US and to shipping to another country, even they are in the same language. So, my best advice here is don't change what Shopify has perfectly done, because you will create issues. Issues everywhere. In Google Merchant Center.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a good point as far as when we're talking about if you have one Shopify account here, storefront, those sorts of things. So if you're in a Plus shop, like we had talked about in the older way of doing it, where we have these expansion stores for different markets, in which case it might be set up that way for a specific reason. Usually it is an accounting or legal specific reason, right? As far as if they have to do that. So that's when we're looking at, okay, now we have to look at touching Hreflang. But like for the majority of use cases, most people have this in one shop, and we've expanded to where we're serving multiple markets. So we shouldn't be touching that. So that's a really, really good specific reason to call this out. Now, currency converter apps. You're like, no, these are just not good. Like, don't use them.
The same here. Obviously, everything is
that?
business decision, and there is some merchants that they may decide that they want to use a currency converter app. My point here is that, again, this is bad for the customer experience. I don't think it's good for converting.
Currency converter apps, not ideal, specifically when they're visual only. So we're not changing anything like market specific or whatever. So there are some apps that just change it from the client side, what the customer sees visually. And this is not a good thing, not a good experience. You were using Europe, but then hitting checkout and then having USD as what they're actually checking out with, and that being really confusing.
Absolutely. And also that every price and currency is being changed by JavaScript in every page load. I mean,
performance is a huge problem now.
It's a huge problem. Absolutely. And these kind of apps, they usually insert very huge JavaScript that affects all pages, affect all other apps, all development. So, I don't like it. And also, it usually creates this kind of refresh on the page that when you initially see the price in the main currency, and suddenly in 1 second it changes. So it also, it's not good for the experience of the customer. And obviously they can abandon and not place the order because they have seen everything in their currency. But when they arrive to the checkout, they will need to be the ones with their bank account to pay for the fees for the exchange rate. So
and even then, if they don't check out and they do an abandoned cart or something like this, all the follow up is going to be in the store's currency too. Again, because like nothing is personalized or localized to them. So I think that's really an important thing as a developer, that when we're working on Shopify, you want to do things the Shopify way. So some of these visual tricks might be okay for WooCommerce land or something like that, or what have you. But the proper way for us to do this then is with markets to make sure that they're actually using a specified to them currency and those sorts of things.
It's true that sometimes, it's true that there is some business that I understand in specific countries where Shopify payments is not viable. So they struggle with that because they cannot have local payment, local currencies. Sorry, natively.
Oh wow, okay, I didn't realize that. So if Shopify payments is not supported, they can't actually get
right now
currency for that.
It's not
possible. Wow, okay.
Yeah, but
didn't realize that.
I think just 2 months ago they announced Shopify payments in 8 countries, in new countries, and I think payments will be available really soon in mostly all the countries where the platform is available. For that kind of merchants, what I usually recommend is, okay, let's go with expansion stores, because with expansion stores you can have local payments. Usually just set up each store in each currency, and you will allow your users to pay in that currency.
That makes sense, and that probably in that situation, like you mentioned, like there's specific business decisions where that it just makes sense to do it that way, and that would definitely be one of those situations. What about automatic redirections? So this is again, like from the SEOs, this is another one of their faves, right? Like as far as this goes, we don't like automatic redirection. We don't want that. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, this is one of the main reasons of why we built our product, our app. I don't like also as well automatic redirections without consent of the user. The reason of that is because when you do automatic redirections, I mean, for my point of view on and what I have heard and talk about with Shopify Markets team, the native Shopify automatic redirection is a native and free way for you or for stores, so they can enable it and ensure that each user is arriving to the right store. But first you have the your location API available, the endpoint, to get the location of the user to create your own solution or using a third-party solution like us. And the main reason of not doing automatic redirection without a consent is because of ACO web crawlers, because obviously all the main crawlers are based in the US. So if you have a subfolder for your French experience, the web crawler will access from the US to that experience, and they will be automatically redirected to the US. So they will not be able to crawl the website and index it in Google. Also, this usually happens with Google Merchant Center that can create you strikes, because you are sending to, imagine you have your products in euros and also in dollars, and you are sending your catalog in euros to Merchant Center, and when Google Merchant Center crawler read your website, they are being redirected again to the US. So they see a mismatch. You are telling me you're selling this in this price in euros, but when I set your website, I don't see this in the HTML. And they create you a strike and they remove your post for that country.
That makes a lot of sense. I feel like I've had multiple merchants who have had this Google Merchant Center issue where we've tried to figure out why pricing is showing up as a conflict. And I'm curious if that's part of the reason was we were using maybe automatic redirects at that time. That's really interesting.
Yeah, in fact, this is one of the main reasons of why merchants choose our app, because what we do is in the first visit, only for the users that are not landing the right experience, we show them this welcome pop-up to guide them to the right localized experience. We store that in a first-party cookie, and in the subsequent visits, we will automatically redirect the user, but because we have their consent. And in this way, the web crawler will not interact with that welcome pop-up, and they will be able to read the entire localized content.
I'll admit, this is a hard thing to do, because I've tried to build this out for a merchant just in the client and not with an app before. And there were so many use cases that I had to explore that we just ended up going back to the app. So it's not an easy thing that y'all have done there. Yeah.
In fact, we are still surprised because each day we discover some use case what is different, and it's more difficult and complicated than it sounds at the beginning. But we love this, helping them with that, and we have also seen not only on Google Merchant Center but also in Google Ads or even Meta Ads, because they are again seeing different pricing, and they create you this kind of stripes. This is very common on Google Ads, and market is like, what is happening here? Why I have this strike? Why they don't allow me to run this ad? And it's usually because you are performing this automatic redirect. So the web crawler is not able to see your localized content.
Yeah, it is like I said, it's something that you think is simple, but it has an endless amount of complexity to it. So that's fantastic.
So I've just been sitting here listening to all this because I know so little about markets and I'm learning so much. But we're also getting a little long in terms of recording time. Is there anything else, Taylor, Roberto, you want to make sure that we hit on? I have other questions about how you built the app and that sort of thing, but I'll defer those for market domain questions if you have those.
As you know, I can be talking about this for however you want. I think it's also very interesting to know for merchants when to choose expansion stores and markets. I think this very long to talk now, so maybe we can move forward, whatever you decide.
Sure. Well, give us your quick highlights of what would help guide that decision.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is no playbook. And it depends. It's a business decision, and it's true that it can create a very huge debt tech. Tech debt. Sorry. Because you are going to create your entire business with multiple expansion stores, and just to move all this information to one single store. We've done this 4 times in the past. We have helped merchants doing that, and I don't decide. I hope anyone needs to do this, because it's super frustrating and difficult to migrate from multiple expansion stores to one single store. It's super difficult. I really think it's also one of the main reasons when I talk with merchants that, sometimes I talk with merchants that I tell them, why did you have expansion stores? You could have everything in one store because you have only one warehouse, you have only one entity. And they usually tell me, because I've been doing this for 10 years, I don't want to move and touch anything.
That's how it was set up. So it's not broken quite yet. We could make things way better, but it's not broken, so I'm not going to tackle that. Mm-hmm.
So I will tell you that we just, in fact, this week we created a very long post talking about this and helping merchants on decide on choosing and decide the best decision for them. But for me, I think right now it will depend. If you have multiple entities across the globe, if you have one company in the US, one company in the UK, another one in France, so obviously you want to build and sell from each company. Then, even there is a new feature from Shopify, it's only available if you are on Shopify Plus, and also it has some limitations. So I think it's one of the main reasons of why creating multiple expansion stores. Also, the Shopify fees. When you are selling with Shopify payments, they also add you a fee for the conversion of your billing currency, the currency that where you're going to receive the payouts. So sometimes it also makes sense if you have a very huge volume. I saw some enterprise merchants that decide to create expansion store because they have, imagine a bank account in pounds and they want to receive everything in pounds, and don't to pay the fee for Shopify for converting everything. I would say that if you can choose only one single store, is the future, is the Shopify's vision. If you can do it. In the next few years, everything is going to be solved, I hope, and they are working on it. But still, there is some scenarios, even if you have multiple warehouses, or I also see this very common on industry that sell food products. That to sell this kind of product is difficult for each country. So I would say that choose markets if you can. If not, be super clear about why you are deciding to choose multiple expansion stores are one of the main reasons.
Yep. In general, stick to the one unless it's real specific reasons. Yeah. So Karl, do you want to get the highlights on how it's built?
Yeah, me, Roberto. I'm dog whistling to see if you're a Rails developer or not, but I'd just be curious if you have just some highlights about how you guys built the app, what sort of tech stack you're using, what kind of infrastructure you found useful, just stuff that other developers might find interesting.
Or is Alberto? Because are you still primarily front end? I know you do a lot of the marketing and stuff like that. So is Alberto more of the back end developer guy?
Is the back end developer guy? Absolutely, that's right. But we have built everything together, and he is the backend guy. He is a PHP developer, so our backend is PHP, and on the front end, we are JavaScript vanilla guys.
Did you see? He was almost scared to say it. It's we're vanilla JavaScript guys.
Even we have our own framework for PHP. My partner has his own framework. He don't use Laravel, the most common framework for PHP, and in the front end, we are JavaScript vanilla guys, and that's the reason why I fall in love again with the new Polaris in web components, because for us it's we win this battle. We don't need to use React.
We don't have to ship React, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a lot of wisdom to that route. I mean, people don't realize you get a lot with the framework, but you also get a lot of encumbrance in terms of needing to keep up with it.
You get a lot with a framework.
I've done work for someone that's on an Ember.js project that got stuck in like version 2 or something like that. And it's impossible to work with because they don't want to pay to upgrade. Anyway, so way to go. And to keep it all that going is a lot of work. So when were you impacted by the power outages that hit Portugal and parts of Spain?
No, because it's true that our servers are in France, not in Spain. Okay. So when it happened, we were very, very, very calm. Obviously, it was. I heard that situation, but we were very calm. Unfortunately, it was in France, and we also have some backups even in case this happens. We are. I think we. In terms of infrastructure, we haven't seen ever a problem on our side, and we are very, very happy with it.
That's amazing. Wow, kudos to you guys. It takes a lot of technical skill.
Thank you. Well, I think the best point is that you know your exact cost, to run your business. So this is the most important point.
Speaking of costs, it's time to pay the price of learning all about what's going on in Shopify. Sorry, Taylor. We're gonna sit here.
Speaking of costs, oh my gosh.
Taylor, do you want to talk for a while?
I'm happy to talk about the changelog here.
No, so I just give you a hard time. I really am interested.
Sure he is. You see what I go through, Roberto. I bet Alberto never treats you like this. This is just silly. So real quick, dev changelog. By real quick, I'm going to try to rattle through these. I did try to not include every single thing. One of the very big things that I was very excited about talking about here was the new unlisted product status has dropped. So before we had active, we had draft when it came to product status. And if we wanted to hide an object on the storefront or something like this, we'd use the SEO.hidden meta field, but it comes with its own series of issues. Shopify has since introduced this new unlisted product status. And so this is very helpful because people cannot get to this product unless they have the direct link. So really, really fantastic new tool here. Probably converting a lot of things from SEO.hidden over to this. It'll be nice when it comes over to new objects as well. I don't know if that's planned. I would hope that it is. But check that out. That's definitely going to be helpful for folks. Just a point of improvement, but improvement enough. We were talking a little bit about the Cart Ajax API. So one of the things that has been improved here was some inconsistencies with handling concurrent requests with the Cart Ajax Cart API and GraphQL APIs, and so sometimes requests were being dropped. Now that has since improved. So in essence, if you're sending 2 cart add requests at the same time or something like this, it would execute both requests instead of potentially failing here kind of type thing. So, however, if there are too many requests received, you will still get a 409 response, or potentially the GraphQL API can return an error code of conflict. So that's just something positive as far as folks using that, if you've noticed issues there. Another thing in here that I think is kind of interesting, feels like we could talk about a little bit, but we're just going to breeze over it. Just some updated online store promotion for the App Store requirements. You can't necessarily do app name branding in theme extensions and things like this or what have you, hidden behind something like remove to get a review or with a review or something like this or what have you. This is something that's been talked about before and I thought was in here before, so I think it's interesting that they've updated it. I think they've made this a little bit more clear where before it was more vague. So that's something to just kind of be aware of when it comes to that. Another very huge, very beneficial thing that dropped down from Shopify, increased limits in meta field and meta object definitions. So before we had, 64,000 for non-plus, 128,000 meta objects for for plus shops, and now that has been exploded to 1 million meta object entries, whether you're on plus or not. And so this is really fantastic, particularly for apps that are using this. Particularly for merchants. I'm using meta objects for everything these days, and so I'm sure everyone else is as well, because I'm not always at the forefront here, so if everyone else must be doing it too. So Roberto's using them. We love meta objects, right? And so this is a big deal for everybody, for sure.
Yeah, just here if I can, Taylor.
Jump in.
I hope that soon enough, we can also see the unlisted status of meta objects. It would be amazing to have that.
Yes. So yeah, the status of meta objects is definitely important, especially since we're all using them so much. Pages and those sorts of things. The ability to access certain status. So that in this instance, what specifically are we looking for meta objects here?
Yeah, I imagine that you are creating meta object pages and you want to remove them for the sitemap and hide them from an ACO perspective. It would be super cool to have active, draft, and unlisted also on meta object pages. That would be super cool.
Because this is a big problem. This is a good thing to call out too, because SEO.hidden actually it's not accessible on meta object pages either. And so if you're creating meta object pages for content, which again I love being able to do that, but if you do have to have a hidden page, like this does not work for you at all right now. So yes, having an unlisted status for this would be phenomenal. I would love to see that as well. Good call out. Another quick item here. We'll just cover another quick one. Don't worry, Karl. He's nodding off here, but we'll keep him around. So, there's this one's an action required. So important enough to mention. Bulk operations group objects default change to false. So if you're doing bulk operations here specifically, the argument now defaults to false. Something to just be aware of as well. You app devs and stuff are probably going to be way more familiar with the potential implications for that, so I'm going to let you run with that. And then another very important action required, cart discount code update mutation now requires the discount codes field. So as part of the January 2026 release, it's going to require the argument to be included. Before it was fine to not include the argument. And so now it needs to be there. So make sure that's there when you're taking a look at that. And finally, and this is important because Orbe is built for Shopify, but built for Shopify apps get priority visibility across the Shopify App Store. So this is something, again, I thought was a thing already, but they're calling it out, so there must have been a specific change here. I feel like this was the promise of built for Shopify for a while as well. But in particular, I think it's because it's being extended. So they're going to be built for Shopify apps are now going to be featured more prominently across key App Store surfaces like the homepage spotlight, priority recommendations, interactive built for Shopify badges across the store that are actually clickable now to provide some merchant education on what built for Shopify standards actually means, which is helpful because most merchants, even still today, do not know what the BFS badge is unless I tell them. So at least the folks that I'm working with. And that's the changelog, Karl. So wake up, maybe some picks now.
Thank you, Taylor. That was very helpful. Those are all very interesting. The BFS one stuck out to me as well. I saw it last night when I was researching. Anyway,
even more fun.
We have made it to the third half of our show, my favorite half. Time for picks of the week. And I'll go first just to set the mood since I want to give Roberto a chance to make sure he's good to go. My pick of the week is a website/app called Chronometer, Chronometer, Chronometer for those of you in that market. And it is a nutrition and calorie and macro tracking app. So I've messed around with these over the years, doing calorie counting or just trying to figure out what I've been eating, keep track of it. This one is my favorite so far. It's got a great library of food entries. You can scan barcodes if you're eating a packaged product, and the macro breakdown is really helpful. And it's free. That was the other part. So it's got an app, it's got a website. Obviously, there are versions you can pay for, but the free version is great. So I recommend
So this is like MyFitnessPal kind of type thing for like logging food, but it's better. Okay.
Well, it's free. I guess those are all have free tiers as well, but no, I really enjoy this one. It's much easier to work with.
I didn't check. I didn't saw that it was free. Super cool.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Yeah. I tested Karl AI. I don't know if you know. This other tool is very similar. It's just an iPhone app that is you take a photo of any food and it gives you the exact calories with AI. It's also cool. But super interesting. This one is a paid app. It's not free.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
Just way to upstage me, Roberto. I mean, that sounds like a really cool.
He's like, yeah, yours is fine, but this is better.
Okay, guys.
No, absolutely.
Anyway, No, that's cool. Thanks. Roberto, you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. I share here with you a tweet from Benzel, from the product team of Shopify. I check and love what they are building here for the analytics team of Shopify, the new customer events sandbox, for getting pixels. They created a GitHub thread where they are going to introduce standardized storefront events, and I think it's really, really interesting. And anyone who love analytics on Shopify and want to improve or getting this improved should check it. I really love what I have read, and yeah, I love what they're doing here.
That is cool. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yes, this is very good.
RFC is a long way away from an implementation, but
yeah, it will. But the standardizing storefront events would be huge for everybody, just across the board. This fixes a lot of problems potentially with, we have this promise or hope that it fixes a lot of problems between apps like cart drawer stuff and whatever, and themes. It's a long time coming as far as something being needed here. So it's nice to see Shopify at least throwing an RFC out there to acknowledge that. That's great. Yeah,
and I really love it how they have explained the challenges of that. They know that there is little data, but at the same time they don't want to expose too much data. So super interesting.
Yes, performance being a huge concern. Yeah, we don't want to send everything. We have to keep performance at the forefront. But yeah, there's obviously some critical things here that would be fantastic versus the rest of us kind of hacking together patches for stuff. So absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
So
Taylor.
My pick is going to be my local high school football sports team. So the Ashland.
Is this about
Arrows.
potatoes again?
Not about potatoes. This is this is Ashland football. This is they're made it to the first round of the playoffs. So their first playoff game. We're outside the regular season for our local high school. They've only lost one game this season, so they're having a fantastic year as well. And so looking forward to that. I love high school football. And so enjoying that they're continuing on into the playoff season. So,
well, good for them. Is there a game tonight, or is it no? Because it's
the game is tonight, and thankfully they did well enough that they secured a home team game tonight. So I'll be going to that, and then after that we'll see where we go from there.
So no trick or treating, or you trick or trunked last night?
We trick or treated. So my town actually does it always the Thursday before Halloween, mainly because for trick or treating, the idea is it's a little bit safer. People having parties and out, maybe not being as responsible with a bunch of kids walking around, on the streets and stuff like that. It just makes it a little bit safer. And so they did their trick or treating last night. It rained and was 40 degrees most of the night.
Well, I was out there too.
It was it was good. We still we set up some tents just to keep people a little dry and stuff, and it was fine. So the kids had a blast. Good candy call. So
cool. So you will continue today with the sugar, but a different type of sugar with drinks, I suppose, right?
Yes, different kinds.
Well, and with that, you have wasted another perfectly good hour listening to the Liquid Weekly podcast. Roberto, thanks so much for joining us. If you're into markets and all that stuff, check out his app. It's going to be amazing. Taylor, good to see you as always, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Happy hacking.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Roberto.